Hey guys, today I'm actually going to offer you a little bit of data and research. Maybe not always so interesting for everyone, but in my world, I'm a bit of a nerd and I really do like to get involved in the research and get involved in the data. Data is very, very powerful. And obviously, I'd love to share that little bit with you. So let me just share my screen with you. I have actually created a short little slideshow is because I think it's just easier to condense what's happening. If I look to the right, I'm obviously, just checking my second screen for the slides that I want to share with you. So obviously, how do we create data? Where do we get our data from? We do online sensory-based assessments, and we have been doing so for quite some time. So that enables us to get access to see what trends are we seeing in the data and what is happening. And obviously, on a constant level, I try to make sense of what are we seeing and how can we use this information to help our clients further. So what are we measuring? We're measuring sensory thresholds. All of our sensory assessments are primarily looking at either the avoiding or the seeking patterns for sensory information that people have. Now, sensory thresholds are inherently part of your genetic coding. It's your sensory wiring. You were born like this, so it is really fundamentally part of who you are. I don't want to get involved in the nature versus nurture debate. Obviously, it does get influenced by culture and upbringing, but that's definitely another a video for another day. So, but it is inherently part of who we are. And how we create this data, firstly, the sensory quiz, it's a quick, free, and easy version on our website. We don't necessarily look at that particularly because it's a much shorter version and it's literally just getting you guys introduced to it. The second one is the sensory matrix, and I actually designed the sensory matrix in 2005 already. At the time, I was very frustrated with the tools out there. I didn't just want to find a pattern of your sensory style or your sensory profile, which was at the time very much used. I wanted to understand what differences of thresholds are we seeing in your particular senses or your systems. Hence me developing the sensory matrix. It actually then measures your total sensory thresholds, but it can also distinguish different threshold patterns within each of your different sensory systems. In other words, do you have low thresholds for auditory or maybe high thresholds for movement? And they would mean different things for you as a result. And it enables us who work with these tools and other coaches or practitioners or therapists who work with these tools to make strategies and intervention based on what these results are. So a very important part of the work that we do. The sensory matrix is predominantly used for health and well-being and also very powerful from a relationship point of view. The other one that I just want to make a quick reference to, Sensors on Call, is actually the first tool that I've designed in 2008 already. That was based on my PhD research to determine who should work in a call center. And a call center, high density, open plan, crazy, busy, noisy, very vibey and energetic type of environments. And, my hypothesis was low threshold sensory avoiders cannot work in a call center, where sensation seekers with high threshold would actually work there better. It was proven. So if you wanted to hunt around, my PhD thesis is on the website. You can read through it. And then last but not least, Sensors at Work. This is a new tool that we're about to launch, looking at hybrid working. At sensory intelligence, we consider the environment predominantly and your sensory stimuli that the brain derives through your environment. It goes through very particular neural pathways, receptors and pathways to your central nervous system, in other words, to your brain, and what happens through these neuroscientific processes. We've also learned from COVID, change of working patterns, the world of work have changed. Who should be working at home, who should not be working at home. So Sensors at Work is just tapping into that dilemma of understanding space, understanding work environments. How do we match that based on your inherent thresholds? Because it makes so much sense. It will make it easier for us. Anyway, so that's the baseline of where we create our data from. The data that I'm going to share with you now is from the sensory matrix that we've put together. So that's predominantly the data. Okay, just taking you back to our tree analogy, the sensory tree. It's a very fun, easy, non-threatening way to talk about sensory styles. Are you a root, a trunk, or a leaf? Obviously, if you're a leaf, high threshold sensory seekers, there's wind, there's sun, there's birds, there's butterfly, bees. The seasons change, different colors. Roots down at the bottom, cool, calm, deep in the ground, neutral, warm. There's not too much going on. Anchor the tree. And then thank goodness we've got the sensory neutrals in the middle, mediating, flexible. They actually connect the roots and the leaves to one another. But this is a phenomenal analogy to use with people to understand themselves, and also we bring that into a relationship dynamic. Okay, and these are the three main categories, but there's many, many variations and nuances and continuity between these particular parts. So let's look at the data collection. So the data collection that I'm talking about here, 1,506 data sets. It was calculated or downloaded pre-COVID. And I'm currently have an article in press, a research article in press, where the analysis of this data was also used in validation for the sensory matrix. But this is what we've seen in this particular data. 36% of people are sensory seekers, high thresholds, 25% of people low threshold, sensory avoiders, and then 39% of people sensory neutrals, which is our medium thresholds. Now, this 25% at the bottom is quite well aligned with industry benchmarking, industry data, and I'm referring to psychology, occupational therapy. What has we seen? I think historically over the years, I think a lot of the data refer to about 20% of the population is highly sensitive, so 25% is more or less similar to that, and I do think we have seen different trends in these data patterns, which is exactly why the next slides that I'm going to use you are so useful. Then what we did, post-COVID, we've actually extracted 4,523 data sets off, and we reanalyzed this to see what is emerging. And it looks very, very, very different to the previous set. 22% of people are sensory seekers, 40% are avoiders, and 38% are sensory neutrals. So that looks fairly different to the previous picture. If we want to compare the two, we went seekers from 36% to 22%. That's a drop of 14%. That's quite high. 39 to 38, it's more or less the same. There's a 1% difference. And then there's a marked increase from 25% to 40%, a 15% increase in sensory avoiders. Very, very interesting to look at this. High A and high B scores here refer to the sensory quiz, if you wanted to know what that refers to. There's a shift here, a big change. And I don't want to get into detail here, and, it would be speculative from me anyway, but I wonder what has COVID and social isolation and the changes in the workplace and the way that we work, has that created the shift in the level of sensitivity that people are experiencing? So that's really, really interesting. What I did do, I've just unpacked the data in a little bit more detail, because in this group of over 4,500, we've got two types of groups. So I've unpacked the data in a little bit more detail. We've got two groups here, what we would call healthy adults. And then there's also a group in our data set that are being processed through all of our licensed users and our therapists and our practitioners. Most of this group are working with people in the mental health space. So I've separated these two data sets. This one just looked at healthy adults, which was 1,741. Looks a little bit different here. 30% avoiders and 30% seekers. A nice shift, looks a little bit more like a bell curve. It is still an increase here and a decrease there, increase in avoiders and decrease in our seekers, but that seems to be a little bit more aligned. But I think that helps just a little bit comparing it to that initial set. But what is really interesting, although very much aligned with the research as well, in the group of adults which most probably have got mental health diagnosis, 2,782, there's only 18% of people that are sensory seekers. There's 47% of that group which are sensory avoiders. This 47% really aligns with the data that's out there. The research do show that If we have low sensitivity, in other words, we are more sensory sensitive, the brain is definitely more influenced by environmental stimuli, that group are more at risk for depression, anxiety, burnout, stress. So there's definitely research-based and science-based more of a risk factor for people with low thresholds. And in our group, this is a nice comparison just to confirm that. Hopefully that helped you a little bit to share some of the data. Watch this space. We continue to look at the data. It does influence us in decision making, and it also really helps us to make sense of the groups of people that we are working with. If you found that interesting, you want to know more about research, please do feel free to reach out to me. This is something that's close to my heart. I continue to do research amongst all the other stuff that I do. And very happy to hear from you.